The rain began earlier than the forecast said it would. Soft, hesitant drops tapping against the windshield of Emily's old sedan as she drove along the winding road toward Millfield. The town was barely visible on the map, a small dot hidden between stretches of pine forest and forgotten farmland. She had promised her mother she'd visit that weekend, but now at nearly 9 p.m., and she was 30 miles from any gas station, her phone barely clinging to one bar of signal, and the rain had turned from a drizzle to a full-blown storm. The wipers fought against the flood of water. Thud, screech, thud. A tree branch cracked somewhere ahead. Lightning flashed, revealing the narrow road like a quick photograph. Cracked asphalt, puddles that looked like black mirrors, and a single wooden house standing on the right, light flickering faintly through its windows. Emily slowed down. "Please don't break down," she whispered, patting the steering wheel as thunder rolled overhead. The car's engine coughed once, then twice, and then died. She tried again. Nothing but a choking sound. For a moment, Emily just sat there, listening to the rain hammering the roof, the hiss of the wind slicing through the trees. Then the headlights dimmed, leaving her bathed in the ghostly glow of her dashboard light. She cursed softly, grabbed her phone. No service. Perfect. That's when she saw it. Someone standing by the porch of the old house. A tall silhouette, unmoving, watching. Emily's pulse quickened. She blinked, leaned closer to the rain-smeared window. The lightning struck again, and the porch was empty. For a few seconds, she wondered if she'd imagined it, but the house was real enough, and the warm flicker of light inside meant someone might live there. She hated the idea of knocking on a stranger's door this late, but with the storm worsening, she didn't have many options. She grabbed her coat, stepped out. The rain soaked her instantly, cold needles stabbing through her clothes. Each step toward the house squelched in the muddy ground. The place looked old, wood panels swollen from years of dampness, vines creeping up the sides. The sign near the porch said, barely readable, "Miller Residence, Garnica 1934. She reached the door and knocked. Once, twice. The sound echoed hollow like the door itself was answering back. No one came. She knocked again, louder this time, and then the light inside flickered, once, twice, and before steadying again. A lock clicked. The door creaked open. A woman stood there, gray-haired, her eyes pale and almost colorless under the flickering light. "Can I help you?" Her voice was thin, cracked with age. Emily smiled nervously. "Hi, my car broke down just up the road. I was wondering if I could use your phone." The woman stared at her for a long moment before saying, "Come in, child, you'll catch your death out there." Emily hesitated. Something about the woman's voice felt wrong, like it was echoing from somewhere deeper than her throat. But the thunder growled overhead, forcing her hand. She stepped inside. The air smelled of old wood and damp earth. The furniture looked antique, untouched by time, draped in lace and dust. A fire burned weakly in the fireplace, casting long shadows across the room. The woman shut the door behind her. "You must be freezing. Sit down." "Thanks. I really appreciate it." "Phone's in the kitchen, but..." She paused, her expression hardening. "It hasn't worked since the storm started." "Oh." Emily forced a smile. "Of course." "Bad luck." The woman nodded slowly, eyes never leaving Emily's face. "Bad luck comes with rain," she said softly. "Always has." Emily tried to laugh it off. The fire crackled. The clock on the mantel ticked, steady, mechanical, hypnotic. Tick-tock, tick-tock. "Do you live here alone?" Emily asked, trying to break the silence. The woman turned to her slowly. "Not alone, dear. My husband's upstairs. He's resting." Something about the pause before resting made Emily's skin crawl. Lightning flashed again. For a brief instant, she saw the stairs leading up and a dark figure at the top. She blinked. Gone. The woman handed her a towel. "You're soaked through. Dry off. I'll make tea." Emily nodded, sitting closer to the fire. The warmth felt good. She stared into the flames, watching them dance. But something odd flickered there, a reflection that didn't match her movements. Her reflection in the fire smiled back, even when she wasn't smiling. She jerked her head away. Her heart thudded. "What the hell? Everything all right, dear?" Yeah. Just dizzy from the drive." The woman smiled. But it wasn't comforting. Her lips trembled at the corners like they were remembering how to smile. The tea arrived in dark, bitter steaming. Emily took a small sip and instantly regretted it. It tasted metallic like rainwater mixed with rust. She set it down. Thank you. The woman sat across from her, hands folded neatly on her lap. You shouldn't have stopped, you know. Emily frowned. Stopped? On this road, at night. Her tone had changed, no longer gentle but cold and distant. Emily forced a laugh. Yeah, I didn't really have a choice. The woman leaned forward, eyes glinting in the firelight. There's always a choice. The rain hammered harder now. The whole house groaned under the wind. And then, knock. Knock. Emily froze. Someone was at the door. The woman didn't move. She just stared at the door, her expression tightening. Knock. Knock. Emily swallowed. Maybe someone else's car broke down. The woman's voice dropped to a whisper. No one knocks twice in this rain. The knocking grew louder, faster. Knock. 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 Then silence. Emily's heart pounded. Should I check? The woman's face was pale. No. Lightning flashed, and in that flash, Emily saw something through the frosted window near the door. A shape, tall, thin, bent in ways a body shouldn't bend. It moved slowly toward the glass, its head twisting, long fingers pressing against the window. The woman whispered almost to herself, "It found another one." What? Before Emily could finish, the lights flickered, then went out. Darkness swallowed the room. The only sound was the storm, and the faint rhythmic tap-tap-tap at the window, like fingernails. "Where's your husband?" Emily whispered. The woman didn't answer. Instead, from upstairs came a creak, then another. Footsteps. But they didn't sound human, too slow, too heavy. Each step dragged, leaving a wet squelch behind. Emily stood. Okay, this isn't funny anymore. I need to go. She turned toward the door and stopped. The door was wide open. Rain blew in. The porch was empty, but muddy footprints led inside. The footprints glistened under the weak light from the dying fire, long, uneven, smeared as though whoever left them had dragged their feet through mud, or something thicker. Emily froze. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs refused to move. Behind her, the old woman whispered something under her breath, a prayer maybe, or a name. Emily turned. Who's in here? The woman didn't look up. She just said softly, "It doesn't stop once it's inside." The thunder roared again. Lightning illuminated the room for a heartbeat, and in that flash, Emily saw something impossible. The muddy footprints didn't stop at the door, they started there, as if something had come out of the house and then walked back in. The woman rose slowly from her chair, eyes glassy. "You shouldn't have opened the door," she said. "I didn't..." Emily started, but her voice cracked. She didn't remember opening it. She just remembered turning, seeing it open. Then a sound came from upstairs, a dragging, wet shuffle across old wood. The woman's face twisted with dread. "He's awake," she whispered. "Your husband?" Her lips trembled. "He used to be." Emily backed away toward the fireplace, hands shaking. "What do you mean, used to be?" The old woman looked up slowly, her pale eyes glinting like glass in the firelight. "The rain changes people," she said. "It comes for those who hear the second knock." "What second? Knock, knock." The sound came again, this time from the window behind Emily. She spun around. A shadow moved on the other side of the glass, tall, crooked, its face pressed to the pane. The glass fogged with its breath, but there was no shape of a mouth, just darkness where a face should be. The old woman's voice quivered. "It's him. It wears their faces after the rain takes them." Emily stumbled back. "This is insane." She grabbed her phone. Still no signal. She turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, shaky but real. "Okay, I'm leaving," she said. "I'm getting out of this house." The woman didn't try to stop her. She just whispered, "The rain follows you now." Emily didn't care. She bolted for the door. Outside, the storm raged harder than before. Rain slashed sideways, wind howling through the trees. Her car sat in the same spot, half submerged in mud. She sprinted toward it, splashing through puddles, hair plastered to her face. She yanked the door open, jumped in, jammed the key in the ignition. It coughed once, twice, then nothing. "Come on," she screamed, slamming the steering wheel. Lightning struck again, and in that flash she saw movement in the passenger seat. Someone sitting there, drenched, grinning. It was her. Emily screamed and threw herself out of the car. She fell hard into the mud, pain shooting up her arm. She looked back. The other her still sat there, smiling that impossible smile, fogging up the glass with slow, rhythmic breaths, her reflection from the fire. It had followed her. She stumbled toward the woods, rain blinding her eyes. Every sound was alive. The wind sounded like whispers, the trees groaned like they were breathing. Behind her came footsteps, slow, slapping, wet. She looked back. Something walked out of the rain, the same tall, twisted shape she'd seen at the window. It moved like it was half floating, its head tilting side to side like it was listening to her heartbeat. It didn't chase, it just followed. Emily ran. Branches tore at her clothes. Lightning flashed through the trees. She didn't know where she was going, just away. She stumbled onto a dirt road, saw a faint light ahead, a small gas station. She sprinted toward it, half sobbing. The bell above the door jingled as she burst inside. A man behind the counter looked up, startled. "Whoa, ma'am, you okay?" Emily slammed her hands on the counter. "Please, you have to help me. There's something out there." He raised a hand. "Calm down. You're soaked. You want a towel?" She shook her head frantically. "No! There's something in the rain. It's following me." The man frowned. "The rain?" She nodded. "It knocks twice." He froze. For a second, all the color drained from his face. Then he said softly, "You heard it?" "What?" He looked past her, out the glass door. "Then it's already too late." Thunder cracked again. The lights flickered once and went out. The man grabbed a flashlight from behind the counter, breathing fast. "Back room now." Emily followed, heart hammering. He shut the door behind them, locked it, pressed his ear to the wood. Outside, the bell above the door jingled, once, then twice. Ding, ding. Emily whispered, "Is someone there?" The man shook his head. "Don't speak. Don't move." Something brushed against the door, slow, dragging like wet fabric sliding on wood. Then, silence. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. The man finally whispered, "It's gone." Emily exhaled shakily. What the hell is happening? He turned to her, eyes wide, haunted. "You shouldn't have answered the rain. Once you hear the second knock, it marks you. What is it?" He swallowed hard. "No one knows. Some say it's a spirit that mimics the living, waiting for storms to wash away the boundaries. Others say it's older, the rain itself remembering faces." Emily's voice trembled. "Can it be stopped?" He shook his head. "You can't stop the rain." A faint drip echoed. Emily frowned. "Is there a leak?" The man froze. His eyes darted upward. A single drop of water fell from the ceiling, then another, then dozens. The ceiling darkened, soaking through. It wasn't leaking from the roof. The rain was coming through the walls. The man shouted, "Get back!" But it was too late. Water poured from every crack, cold, dark, smelling of rot. The lights flickered again, the room twisting in the strobe of lightning. Emily screamed as a hand made of rain reached out of the wall, grasping her wrist. She yanked free, stumbling back. The man grabbed a wrench, swung at it, but the rain swallowed it whole. The wrench hit the floor with a clang. When he turned back, the hand was gone. But so was Emily. For a moment there was silence, only the steady patter of rain against the window. Then, knock, knock. The man looked up slowly. The sound came from the back door. His flashlight shook. He walked toward it, breathing hard. "Emily?" No answer. He reached the door. Rain dripped from the frame. He hesitated, then opened it. Lightning flashed. The doorway was empty, except for muddy footprints leading into the gas station. The light flickered again, and for a split second he saw her, Emily, standing at the far end of the aisle, soaked, smiling faintly. "Emily," he whispered. She lifted her hand and knocked on the counter beside her. Once. Twice. The rain knocked twice, and the lights went out for good. When the lights died, the world went silent. That suffocating, impossible silence that only comes after something terrible has already happened. The gas station was drowned in darkness. Only the sound of dripping water remained. The man, Mark, stood frozen, staring into the black. "Emily," he whispered again, his voice trembling. Somewhere deeper in the store, a whisper answered. But it wasn't her voice anymore. It was wetter, thicker, like someone speaking underwater. "Mark." He shined his flashlight toward the aisles. The beam cut through the rain mist that had somehow crept inside. The shelves gleamed with condensation, candy wrappers floating in shallow puddles. Then he saw her. Emily stood at the end of the aisle, soaked, eyes empty. "Emily," Mark said, stepping closer. "We need to get out of here." Her lips twitched. When she spoke, her voice came out twice, once from her mouth and once from somewhere behind her. "You can't leave." Mark's stomach turned. "What the hell?" She took a step forward, the sound of water sloshing inside her shoes. Drops fell from her fingertips like melted glass. "The rain follows everyone," she said. "It just needs to find a door." Mark backed up toward the counter, fumbling for the emergency phone. Dead. He grabbed a flare gun from under the desk. "Stay back," Emily smiled, but it wasn't a human smile. Her mouth stretched too wide, too slow, the skin cracking at the corners. "You heard it, didn't you?" she whispered. The second knock. Then she lunged. Mark fired. The flare exploded between them in a flash of red light. For a split second, the room looked like hell. Smoke, fire, rain pouring from the ceiling, and Emily's silhouette twisting in the red glow. Then she was gone. The flare fizzled, leaving nothing but the echo of dripping water. Mark ran, out the back door into the storm. The rain hit him like stones. The air was freezing, thick with mist. He sprinted toward his truck parked behind the station, jumped in, slammed the door, and jammed the key into the ignition. The engine roared to life. He floored it. The headlights sliced through the rain as the truck tore down the muddy road, but the windshield was fogging from the inside. He wiped it with his sleeve and froze. There were handprints on the glass, from inside. And in the reflection, sitting in the back seat, Emily smiled again. He swerved, heart pounding, the truck skidding sideways on the wet road. Get out of my head," he shouted. Her reflection laughed. "You opened the door." Thunder cracked overhead. The truck hit something hard and flipped into the ditch. Everything went black. When Mark woke up, he was lying in the mud. The truck was upside down, engine smoking. The rain had stopped. The silence was heavier than ever, the kind that eats sound instead of making it. He stumbled to his feet. His leg throbbed, but he could move. The air smelled wrong, sweet and metallic. He looked around. The road was gone. The trees stood twisted, bent in unnatural shapes, their bark slick and black like wet skin. The world was different. He realized with a cold shiver that the rain hadn't stopped. He had just crossed through it. He walked forward, limping, toward a faint light flickering in the distance. A small wooden cabin. It looked old, ancient even. The same architecture as the Miller house. He approached the door. The sign above it read, "The Miller Residence, Stern 1934. His heart nearly stopped. He'd gone in a circle, or maybe the circle had closed around him. Inside, the fire was already burning. And sitting in the chair by the hearth was the same gray-haired woman. She looked up and smiled gently. "You made it." Mark stepped back. No, I left this place." She tilted her head. "Did you?" He looked around. Everything was the same. The clock ticking softly, the faint smell of wet wood, the fire's reflection. Smiling back at him. "Where's Emily?" he asked. The woman's eyes darkened. "She's resting, upstairs." Mark shook his head violently. No, this isn't real. She stood up slowly, her joints cracking like wet wood. Reality doesn't matter, dear. Once the rain takes you, it remembers you. It keeps you where you died best. The thunder boomed again. Rain started falling inside the house. The woman looked up, eyes wide with terror. No, not again. Not tonight. She turned to Mark. You brought it back. The door behind them creaked open, on its own. Knock, knock. Mark spun around. The door stood wide open. Rain fell in sheets, silver and endless, and out of it stepped Emily, or what was left of her. Her face was smooth and featureless now, her body moving like water wearing a human shape. She stopped in front of him. You opened the door, she said again. The old woman began to pray, voice trembling. It takes one every storm, always one, always the one who answers. Emily, no, the rain turned its faceless head toward the woman. Your time was long ago. It reached out, and where its fingers touched, the woman's skin melted away like wax under flame. She screamed as the rain absorbed her, her body dissolving into mist. Mark fell back, horrified. Please, why me? What do you want? The shape leaned close. Its voice came from everywhere at once. To remember. What? The rain forgets. Until someone listens. Then it reached for him. Everything went white. Mark found himself standing outside his truck again, engine running, rain pouring down as if nothing had happened. He blinked. The gas station was ahead. The world normal. He gasped with relief. Had it all been a nightmare? He laughed shakily and drove forward. But as he passed the gas station window, he froze. Inside, through the glass, he saw himself, standing behind the counter. The same clothes, the same face. Except this version of him was smiling and didn't blink. The real Mark's hand began to tremble. The radio crackled suddenly. A voice whispered through static. Soft, wet, familiar. Knock, knock. Epilogue. A week later, the sheriff of Millfield found an abandoned gas station by the highway. Inside, they discovered water damage, overturned shelves, and muddy footprints leading in circles. The power was still on. The bell above the door jingled when they entered, and on the counter lay a soaked note written in shaky handwriting. If the rain knocks twice, don't open the door. Outside, thunder rolled again, and from somewhere far off, almost too faint to hear, knock, knock. The night had turned completely black. No moon, no stars, only the faint shimmer of fog crawling over the lake. The air itself seemed alive, breathing slowly as if the whole forest was waiting for something terrible to happen. Lily stood on the shore, her feet sunk slightly in the mud. The cold water lapped against her toes, pulling at her, whispering in a voice that felt like her mother's and something else. Come closer. You left me here, Lily. Her breath caught in her throat. She took a trembling step forward. Mom? Her voice cracked. Is that really you? The water rippled violently, like something large moved beneath the surface. Suddenly, the reflection in the lake wasn't hers anymore. It was her mother's face, pale, waterlogged, eyes wide open, but behind that face something was moving. A dark shadow rose behind the reflection, its edges undefined like smoke and flesh at once. It reached out through the reflection from inside the water. Lily stumbled back screaming, but the hand broke the surface and grabbed her ankle. It was cold as ice, the grip strong enough to crush bone. She kicked, pulling herself free, and crawled backward in the mud. The voice came again, distorted now, no longer her mother's. You shouldn't have come back, Lily, and now you'll stay. Then she heard another voice from behind her. Lily, don't look back. It was Eric, one of the villagers she had met earlier that day. He was pale, his eyes darting toward the lake as if terrified to be near it. What's happening? She cried. My mother, she's... Eric shook his head violently. That's not your mother. The lake keeps what it's fed. Every year, someone hears their dead calling from the water. If you answer, you become one of them. Lily's stomach twisted. Then who's in there? He swallowed hard. Everyone who ever drowned here. Everyone the lake has taken. A faint, wet gurgling sound came from the shore. Something was crawling out of the water, dozens of them. Pale, dripping figures, faces bloated and eyes black. Some were children, some were adults. All of them had that same slow, twisted smile. Lily screamed and ran, Eric close behind. The ground seemed to pulse under their feet, the fog thickening until they could barely see a few steps ahead. "Don't stop!" Eric shouted. "If you hear their voices again, cover your ears." But Lily couldn't resist. The whispers surrounded her now, echoing from every direction. "You left us and come home. It's warm here in the water. Don't run, Lily." Then a child's laugh. It was unmistakable, her little brother's laugh. She froze. Eric grabbed her arm, yelling, "No, that's how they get you." But it was too late. Lily turned her head toward the sound. She saw him, standing by the tree line. Small, shivering, eyes innocent. "Lily, it's cold. Help me." Her heart broke. She stepped forward. "Wait!" Eric shouted, pulling her back. "He died last year, didn't he?" She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. "Then that's not him." The boy smiled, and his mouth stretched too wide. "Come to me, sis." From the darkness, a shape unfurled behind him. Tall, skeletal, draped in dripping black moss. It leaned forward, its empty face splitting open like a wound, revealing rows of glistening teeth. Lily screamed as the figure lunged. Eric pushed her aside, and the creature's claws tore through him instead. Blood sprayed across the fog. Eric's scream was short and wet. His body was dragged into the darkness, his eyes wide with horror. Lily fell to her knees, shaking, mud clinging to her hands. The fog began to pulse red, like the forest itself was bleeding. She stumbled to her feet and ran, through the trees, over roots and stones, until she reached the old cabin where she and her mother once lived. The door was half-rotted, swinging open. Inside, everything was covered in dust, but the smell, wet earth and decay, was the same as the lake. A photograph hung crooked on the wall, Lily, her mother, and her brother smiling. But as she stared, their eyes began to bleed black ink, and behind her a soft whisper. "You never left, Lily. You just forgot." She turned slowly and saw herself standing in the corner. Same face, same clothes. But this other Lily was pale and dripping wet. The reflection smiled. "The lake remembers." The candle on the table flickered, then went out. The candle's flame died with a faint hiss, and darkness swallowed the room whole. Lily's breath came in shallow gasps. She could still feel the wet version of herself standing in the shadows, the dripping echo that smiled without warmth. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The other Lily tilted her head slowly. Water dripped from her chin onto the wooden floor, each drop echoing like a heartbeat. "I'm what you left behind," it said softly. "The part that drowned." Lily backed away until her spine hit the wall. "I didn't drown, I left this place years ago." The wet figure stepped closer, leaving muddy footprints that hissed and steamed where they touched the ground. "You think you left, but when you touched the lake tonight, you woke us up, you let it in." Before Lily could answer, something thudded against the cabin door, a heavy, wet sound like flesh slapping wood. Then again, thud, thud, thud. She froze. The other Lily smiled wider. "They're here for you." The door splintered open. Figures poured into the cabin, half-rotted, bloated corpses of the drowned. Their eyes were empty sockets, but black water spilled from them like tears. The smell of decay and algae filled the room. They crawled across the floor toward her, whispering in 100 wet voices. "Join us, the lake is waiting. We miss you down below. Come back, Lily." She grabbed a broken chair leg and swung at them, screaming. The wood shattered against a corpse's skull, but it didn't even flinch. It just kept crawling, gurgling as lake water poured from its mouth. Lily stumbled backward, her heel hit the floorboards, and the ground gave way. She fell through the rotted planks into the crawl space beneath the cabin. The darkness was thicker there, alive. From the hole above, the wet Lily leaned over, her face upside down, smiling eerily. "You can't run from water, Lily, it's in your blood now." The drowned things began sliding down after her, their limbs bending wrong, their skin tearing as they squeezed through the hole. Lily scrambled through the narrow crawl space, mud soaking her hands. She found an opening or a trapdoor leading into the forest. She pushed it open and crawled out, gasping in the cold night air. The fog was thicker now, swirling in impossible shapes. From the trees came whispers and distorted laughter, and then, a voice she knew too well. "Lily, honey." She turned. Her mother stood there, or what was left of her. The woman's hair clung to her face in wet strands, her skin pale and wrinkled, but her smile was heartbreakingly familiar. "Mom," Lily whispered. Her mother reached out a trembling hand. "You shouldn't have gone. We needed you in the water. It's so peaceful there." For a moment, Lily wanted to believe it. The grief she'd buried for years clawed its way up her chest. She took one small step forward. Then she saw it, her mother's shadow on the ground. It wasn't human. It was long, thin, and full of writhing shapes like dozens of arms moving underneath. Lily screamed and ran. The forest seemed endless, the fog twisting around her like hands trying to hold her back. Behind her, she heard the splashing footsteps of the drowned. Then she saw a light, faint, golden, flickering, a lantern. A man stood beside an old cross near the shore. His clothes were soaked, but his eyes glowed faintly blue. "Stop," he shouted. "You can't cross the fog line." Lily stumbled toward him. "Please help me. They're following me." He nodded grimly. "I know, they always do. But you're still alive, and you can still fight it." She looked over her shoulder. Dozens of figures were emerging from the fog. Her mother, the child version of her brother Eric's mangled body, all moving toward her in slow, jerky steps. "What do I do?" she cried. The man raised the lantern. "Light burns what's dead. Don't let the darkness touch you." He thrust the lantern into her hands. The moment she grabbed it, a burst of heat seared through her arms. The flame turned white. The fog screamed. The drowned figures recoiled, their skin blistering, melting into black sludge. The mother thing shrieked, her voice splitting into a dozen echoes. Lily stumbled backward, clutching the lantern. The entire forest shuddered as if the ground itself were alive. And then, silence. The fog thinned. The shapes were gone. The lake was calm again. The man smiled weakly. "You've pushed it back. For now." Lily looked at him. "Who are you?" He looked toward the water, his expression hollow. "Someone who failed to leave." Before she could ask more, his body began to fade, dissolving into mist. The lantern dimmed, and in the reflection of the lake, Lily saw him again, standing under the water, smiling sadly. Her hands trembled. The flame flickered. From beneath the lake, dozens of faces stared up at her, and this time one of them was her own. The wind had died. Even the insects were silent. Only the faint sound of rippling water echoed through the trees, a slow, deliberate rhythm, as if the lake itself was breathing again. Lily stood trembling at the edge, the white flame in her lantern flickering weakly. Her reflection in the water wasn't steady anymore. It twitched, shifting between her face and the drowned version of herself. She whispered, almost afraid of her own voice. "Why do you keep showing me this? What are you trying to tell me?" The reflection smiled, water dripping from its mouth. "Because, Lily, you never left this place." Her chest tightened. "That's not true. I moved away. I have a life." "Do you?" The reflection's grin widened. "Think, Lily. When you came back to the village, did anyone really talk to you? Did anyone even look at you?" She froze. The shopkeeper hadn't met her eyes. The children playing by the fence hadn't reacted when she spoke. Even Eric. He was pale, hollow-eyed, and had seemed surprised she could see him. Her throat went dry. "No." "Because they can't," said the reflection. "You're one of us." The lantern flame flared violently, and the scene around her changed. The fog folded inward, and suddenly she wasn't by the lake anymore. She was in it. Cold, heavy water crushed against her lungs. She screamed, but bubbles escaped her mouth instead of sound. All around her were faces, dozens, hundreds, staring from the dark. The drowned villagers suspended in the murky depths, eyes open and unblinking. Their mouths moved together in perfect unison. "Welcome home." Her mother floated closer, hair drifting like seaweed. "You came back to us. You shouldn't have run." Lily tried to swim up, but her arms felt like lead. The white flame flickered out completely, and darkness pressed in. Then something massive moved below. The water churned, the corpses scattered like leaves. From the bottom of the lake, a shape rose, a shadow larger than a house, faceless, crawling up through the water like a mountain of black flesh. Its form kept changing, sometimes human, sometimes something older, made of mud and bone and hate. The drowned voices whispered in awe. The lake remembers. The monster's voice was everywhere at once. You touched me, child. You called my name in your dreams. Lily's mind split open with terror. What are you? I am the water that takes. I am memory. I am everything that drowns and refuses to die. Its hand, or something like a hand, reached for her. 1,000 fingers of liquid darkness coiled around her waist. But just before it could drag her under, she saw something shining through the murk. The lantern. It floated nearby, its last ember glowing faintly. Summoning every bit of strength left, Lily reached for it. Her hand closed around the handle, and the instant her skin touched the metal, the flame burst back to life. Brighter, whiter, hotter. The water boiled. The monster screamed, its form unraveling into smoke and ash. The drowned souls shrieked, faces melting, bodies turning into streams of black mist that shot upward toward the surface. Lily kicked and swam, following the light. The lake convulsed beneath her. The pressure in her chest grew unbearable. Then suddenly she broke through the surface, gasping for air. The dawn light was rising. The fog was gone. The forest was silent. She dragged herself onto the shore, coughing violently. The lantern lay beside her, empty. Then she heard footsteps. Soft, careful. A voice called out, "Miss, are you all right?" She looked up. A man in a fishing hat was staring down at her, eyes wide. "What are you doing here? Nobody comes near this lake anymore." Lily tried to speak, but her throat burned. "What year is it?" He frowned. "Year? It's 2025. Her heart stopped. She remembered leaving the village in 2001. She had only planned to visit for one night. The man blinked. "You should get home, miss. You're freezing." He reached out a hand to help her up. She hesitated, then took it. His hand was warm, solid, real. As he led her away, she glanced back at the lake. For a moment, everything looked peaceful. Birds chirped, sunlight sparkled on the surface. But then, just for a second, the reflection in the water changed. It wasn't her anymore. It was the wet Lily, smiling. The reflection raised its hand slowly and then waved goodbye. Lily's eyes widened. The lantern in her hand flickered once, faintly, then went out forever. And from deep beneath the lake, the faintest whisper rippled through the water. The lake never forgets.